Trump says the war is over, but the truth is the war hasn't even started yet. How did President Trump circumvent the law to keep the war going without authorization from the US Congress? And why did Iran suddenly drop its demand that the naval blockade be lifted? What are the latest developments in this conflict? A short break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Dear viewers, peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. Welcome to our program today in this renewed meeting, God willing, part of our opinion series, which we always dedicate to keep up with the latest developments and updates in this global conflict taking place in the Middle East between Iran and the Epstein coalition. We begin today. I bear witness to the noble ones from this major debate that America is experiencing after the expiration of the legal deadline set at 2 months, which requires President Trump to obtain permission from the US Congress in order to continue this war. So yesterday was supposed to be the decisive day on which Trump would get from the US Congress either a decision to continue the war on Iran or a decision to stop this war. But the current debate today is that Trump found a way out so that the fate of this war would not be in the hands of Congress. The American administration said that it does not need any permission or any decision from Congress because the war against Iran stopped on April 7th, meaning it stopped 40 days after the beginning of this war. Which means Trump still has 60 more days. If he wants to return to war again, that is, Trump considered this truce as a halt to the war if Trump returns to war again. That means the countdown will start over, meaning another 60 days before he has to ask Congress for permission. So this legal loophole that the American administration relied on, and Trump relied on, caused a lot of controversy in America because the Democrats considered it a circumvention of American laws. They say that since the war hasn't actually stopped, it's only under a truce, the American president doesn't have the right to suspend this period based on a truce or a temporary ceasefire. So all the indications today suggest that the war hasn't ended. There are still American forces in a state of war, there's an ongoing naval blockade, there is still military pressure, and there is no agreement or final decision today to end this war. If Trump had just come out and announced a halt to the war, then it could have actually been considered the end of the war, and Trump would have had the right to suspend this period. But that didn't happen. Trump, for his part, was saying that it's just a truce. The important thing is that Trump found a way out. He found a legal loophole. Because this law that was enacted in 1973 after the Vietnam War doesn't clearly define this point. Therefore, this has created divisions today within the US Congress and within American society in general. There was an American senator who described this trick as a farce. He said this is a farce. He said this is another attempt by Trump to bypass the powers of Congress, to circumvent the authority of Congress. This senator, who is considered the leader of the Democratic Party in the Senate, said that hostilities are still ongoing. There is still a blockade, there are threats, there is chaos, and prices are rising daily, and Americans are paying the price. This means the war hasn't ended. And in the end, Trump comes and says the war has been stopped since the 7th of April. He said this is a farce. So the important thing here is that we can say Trump came out victorious in this legal battle because he found the right loophole. And today no one in America can urge Trump to do otherwise. So this is a case we can say is closed, it's over. There is no longer any chance for Congress to stop this war unless the war resumes and continues for another 60 days. Good. But the new thing today, dear viewers, is that Iran has presented a new proposal or made a slight change to the proposal it had submitted to America through the Pakistani mediator. The proposal we talked about earlier, which consists of 3 stages. Iran made a slight change to it. It seems like a minor change, but it's actually a very important one. It's important because it reveals and clarifies who is most affected by this crisis in the Strait of Hormuz. So Iran, as everyone knows, had presented a proposal. This proposal says that the first stage should only be to stop the war on all fronts, including Lebanon, with guarantees that this aggression will not be repeated. The aggression might also mean paying compensation for these losses. Then after that we can move to the second stage, which will involve negotiations about the Strait of Hormuz, and then the third stage, which will be about the Iranian nuclear issue. But Iran had set a condition before the start of all these negotiations. This condition was lifting the naval blockade imposed on it. Excuse me. The news today is that Iran has abandoned this condition. Iran said that we can negotiate according to this proposal while the naval blockade continues. This gives a very clear impression that Iran does not need this condition, the naval blockade does not affect it, and it can enter these negotiations while the blockade continues. Iran has no problem with it. This is a new development, which means this issue is now witnessing a very important development. We will see how the American response will be, as this is also another aspect. Dear viewers, today there is a very big debate in America about the costs of this ongoing war, the costs that America has paid from the American taxpayers' money. Recently, there have been a number of international reports talking about figures of $60 or $65 billion as the cost of this war. There are some specialized applications that only count and calculate America's operational losses for this war. They said the same thing, saying that America loses $1 billion every day as a result of this war, so the numbers are conflicting. But this made the Pentagon come out to estimate the costs of this war against Iran. Just $1 billion. But this number raised a lot of doubt inside America about its accuracy, to the point that CNN, quoting its own sources, said that the number mentioned by the Pentagon is not correct. It was only given to downplay the real financial losses, to lower these numbers, talking about 60-50 and so on. It was meant to reduce, to minimize these losses, and say that the losses are only limited to $25 billion. So there were multiple reports. Some say that the real losses reach $40 billion, some say $50 billion, and some say more than $65 billion. And there are those who said that America's losses from this war will not stop here, and that the number will reach $1 trillion, $1,000 billion. But believe me, the real shock for the Americans is what he said. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi yesterday stated clearly that the Pentagon is lying, and said that the real financial losses from this war on Iran amount to hundreds of billions of dollars. Araghchi said that every family in America is now paying $500 a month because of this war, and he said that this number is increasing rapidly with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, and it increases every day. This statement caused a major shock in America, which made the American administration come out quickly to respond by saying that Araghchi is lying. All these are approximate numbers, and they bring us closer to reality. Even the talk that the final number will reach more than $1 trillion, more than $1,000 billion, is closer to reality. Why do I say this? Because when we look at the cost of the war on Iraq, it exceeded $2 trillion more than $2,000 billion, and that was at that time, pay close attention, we find that the cost of the war in Afghanistan was even higher, also exceeding $2,300 billion. So at the very least today, we can actually say about this war with Iran, which hasn't continued up to this moment, there have been about 40 days of fighting, almost 2 months of siege, and so on in this crisis, and the cost is $1 trillion. We're talking about 16 American military bases in 8 countries which have been heavily destroyed to the point that, frankly, they're all out of service, almost completely disabled. So, today, perhaps the biggest loss America has suffered from this war isn't on the financial side, but on the strategic side, because today it lost 16 military bases and its military presence in the region. Today, America won't be able to repair what was destroyed. It won't be able to stay in these military bases. Why? Because they have been pinpointed with extreme precision. What happened from Iran's side could happen from any other country. It could happen if a conflict starts with China or with Russia or with any other party. Returning to these military bases will be a bigger burden on America because these bases will not be protecting the countries of the region as much as they themselves will need protection there. A statement was made by a Saudi official who spoke to CNN, and he said clearly that this war has revealed that an alliance with America cannot be exclusive and it cannot be relied upon. This means that there is now a new reality. Saudi Arabia will now begin a new era because it sees that a new reality is emerging for Saudi Arabia. It will not rely on America alone after this war. Maybe it won't end its alliance with America, but it won't depend on America alone. It will look for other allies, maybe even Iran itself, maybe China, Russia and others. So this is the biggest loss America has suffered. When the decision to go to war is a disastrous one that leads to changes opposite to America's interests, this is the dangerous thing that America faced in this war. America, for example, has just made a decision to withdraw 5,000 soldiers from Germany. It's said that within a period ranging from 6 to 12 months, 5,000 soldiers will be withdrawn from Germany. This decision came as an American response. Why? Because Germany and NATO in general did not stand with America in this ongoing war. So is this decision because of what? Because of this war on Iran? So, pay close attention. There will be dramatic events that the world will witness because of this war on Iran, because of this disastrous decision. Today in Germany, there are 38,000 American soldiers. So when we talk about withdrawing 5,000 troops, maybe we're talking about a small number. That means there will still be more than 30,000 soldiers left. But despite that, this indicates that there are divisions, that there is a troubling development for Europe. This might be considered as the first step toward a complete American withdrawal from NATO, the collapse of this alliance, NATO. Polish Prime Minister Tusk said today that the biggest threat facing NATO countries is, what did he say? It's not the external enemy, meaning Russia, he said, but rather this ongoing disintegration of NATO. This disintegration has begun. That is, we could say since the beginning, since Trump became President of the United States. Things are happening today gradually and at a very fast pace. Every time something like this partial withdrawal happens, and so the day will come when the conditions are in place, and America will have withdrawn from this alliance. Just as Trump indicated a month ago when he said frankly, a month ago, that America will withdraw from NATO. So this war on Iran will be the reason for many changes that the world will witness today. There are a number of international reports confirming that there is a strategic collapse for America. CNN, the New York Times, Foreign Policy, Israel Today, Brookings Institute, all these organizations have confirmed this. There is a new reality that Iran is imposing on us, and this reality will affect the whole world. This war has changed the equation. It has become clear that America is unable to protect its military bases. So how can it protect the Gulf countries? It has become clear that it is unable to open the Strait of Hormuz. America, the world's #1 superpower, is unable to open the Strait of Hormuz. It has no control over this strait. It has become clear that it was not able to achieve the objectives of this war, even after 40 days of fighting. With all this equipment, machinery and military capabilities that America has, it has become clear that modern wars are no longer won with heavy conventional weapons, but only with drones. A simple weapon, inexpensive drones, low cost, can destroy a military base with all its military capabilities worth hundreds of millions of dollars. It turns out that America is not as powerful as it used to be portrayed in Hollywood movies. It turns out that the real paper tiger is not Iran, as Trump used to claim, but America is the real paper tiger. It turns out that the strongest weapon a country can have is building the right ideology. The strongest weapon is to have an army and people with the right ideology. It turns out that Iran is the only Islamic power in the Middle East that actually confronts America and the Epstein Alliance. So Iran's war has changed all the assumptions. Iran's war was perhaps a blessing for the Islamic nation and maybe for all of humanity, while for Trump it was a disastrous mistake that he and the rest of the Epstein Alliance countries will regret. So let's talk about the real events, because the consequences of this war, as I said, will not stop here, but will continue. There are great events coming. That's all we have for today. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. See you next time.